Hey, welcome back to Theo's Coffee Break podcast for the next installment of How to Transform Your Life, inspired by the crests from Digimon and the digital world. Today, we're talking about the crest of kindness. Yes, this is something that we know all about. I'm sure that we have heard the phrase kindness is not weakness. I say this at the end of every single one of my episodes, reminding you to be kind. And today, we're going to be breaking this down to really understand how kindness requires strength. That if we, as gentle and kind people, are not strong people, we're going to keep getting taken advantage of. We're going to keep finding ourselves in trouble that we didn't ask for. And then this unnecessary and just out of the blue conflict will keep happening in our lives until we learn how to be strong. So that's why I'm going to be talking about the crest of kindness today. Got a lot of notes here. And with the help of my friends, Ken and Wormmon, they're going to share their testimony in repenting and atonement and the mistakes that they made together in not quite understanding what kindness was. So by them learning the hard way, I can come to you today to give you the answers to the test so that we can learn how to be kind people. What does showing up with kindness actually look like? What does kindness in action, what does that look like? What is that experience like? And this is going to transform your life immediately. If you just take heed to the advice here, you're going to see your life and any blocks that were in your way will be cleared just like that. So come on over for today's coffee break, as again, I'm talking about the crest of kindness, and look for this in season 3, and I'm sure in the title, there'll be some kindness in it. All right, I'll see you there. All right, turning off the phone, turning off the light, moving that to the side. So now it's just you and me here for another conversation in this mini-series. And I'm going to do my best to hold back on the tears. I have a lot of passion for talking about these things. The passion's coming from the transformation that I am experiencing in my own life right now. And there is just so much value that the inner work hasn't really been given the correct justice that it needs. And so I just want to address that really quick. A lot of this stuff is happening on the inside. So when people are looking at you from the outside, they don't quite get it. They don't understand why you might be a bit of a Debbie Downer. They're seeing from the outside your life falling apart. You're a mess. And it comes from, for me at least, not learning how to handle loss correctly. Not understanding what grief really is. And anybody who is grieving or who has healed from grieving, they will tell you it never stops. And I think that's why a lot of people get turned off by doing the inner work, because they're like, well, if the inner work doesn't stop the pain, what's the point? You know, I don't want to be a mess. I don't want to go, look like a fool or whatever. Well, we do the inner work so we can show up better for ourselves. And when we show up better for ourselves, we can show up better for the ones that we love. We can still go to work without snapping out of nowhere on somebody. Doing the inner work helps you learn how to handle conflict better. Because this is the thing about life. When you least want it to, that's when the worst possible thing could possibly happen. Or the most minor inconvenience will happen, or the most random, mundane, like everyone's going to look at you like you're crazy because you're having a meltdown and you're crashing out over that thing. That's what's going to happen, And then everyone's going to think you're crazy. So, and I know that from my own experience. So I want to start off by saying kindness. Kindness is miracles in action. That's right. Those random acts of kindness that we see, those are miracles in action. That kindness that we have towards ourselves when we're just going through a rough patch, that's the grace that we need to give ourselves. That's what compassion looks like. And so this is why I always urge you to be kind, because you never know how your kindness could literally turn someone's day around. And then that'll be what they think about for the rest of the day or the rest of the week. How kind you were just out of nowhere. And that your kindness, that random act of kindness, that just might you being you. And you'll be like, oh, awesome. Cool. I'm glad. I'm glad that I could put a smile on your face or give you some relief. Especially in the days that we're experiencing now. Man, oh man, oh man. I'm seeing it everywhere talking about this. How mean people are getting. How cold people are getting. How the human element in humanity is missing. And it's almost like we're turning on ourselves. And that's because the world is extremely lacking in kindness. So again, that's why I'm here, to bring some clarity and some better understanding so we know that this is actually the best way to show up for ourselves and everyone around us. And this transformation is something you can do starting today, just as you are. Nothing else needed. So as I said before, being gentle and kind requires strength. Because if you're not strong enough, evil and dark forces will take advantage of you. Now you might be like, whoa, okay, you had me up until this point. Evil and dark forces. Oh my gosh, here you go again, right? This is how the enemy works, though. So please stick with me here. The enemy sneaks in. And I talked about this in season 2 of what the devil is going on here, where I break down how the devil operates. Okay? The devil gets in your ear, gives you a seed of truth, and then lets you run with it. Never gives you the full story. Never gives you any transparency. He wants you to spiral and go down that rabbit hole and make the worst assumptions about everybody and everything around you. And this is how he kills the kindness. Because kindness asks for understanding. Kindness asks for transparency. Kindness wants to understand. So something that I've I don't know if I talked about this before, but I'm just going to talk about it again. So, when I worked at Fifth Third Bank, one of the things that I was taught was the handling objections model. And man, oh man, oh man, is this one that everybody struggled with. So I am going to give you a little sneak peek into what the handling objections model is so that you can understand that this is kindness in action. So what happens is suddenly you're in a conflict, or suddenly you're in a misunderstanding during, I don't know, a conversation at the teller line. So like I'm the teller, you're the customer, or I'm the banker, you're the client. And this is where I kick into the handling objections model. So I start by encouraging you. Please tell me more about what I don't understand. And then after they tell me what it is that I'm so clearly misunderstood on and I just don't get it, I ask questions. I ask questions not to annoy you, not to waste your time, but because, as you stated, I really do not understand what's going on here. So I do need to ask these questions so I can help you. And then I confirm. Mr. Johnson, if I'm hearing correctly, it sounds like we have a misunderstanding about what's on your bank statements. Does that sound correct? And then they confirm. Yes, that is correct. That's what I've been trying to say the whole time. And literally, that you'll be surprised. Anyways, and so, and then the next part after that is we repeat this process, me encouraging you, me asking questions, me confirming to make sure we're on the same page, until I can get to a point where I feel confident to provide solutions. So it could sound something like, Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I'm very aware that this was not a conversation that you wanted to have, but I'm very glad that you were able to give me clarity so I can understand. So from what I understand, it sounds like that there are some transactions here on your statements that just don't make sense. And from what I'm hearing, it sounds like it could potentially be fraud. Does that sound correct? And he'll say, yes, that's what I've been saying the whole time. I'm like, okay, thank you. If you would be willing, you could sit down with me at my desk and we can call my back office together and we can get to the bottom of what is really happening here. Does that sound okay with you? And they're like, if that's what needs to be done, then let's do it. Okay, so you know what I mean? You don't really, and here's the thing about kindness, is that you can't expect the other person to like, all of a sudden their frown turns upside down. And this is a lot of times why a lot of us don't want to have these conversations. Because it's draining your energy. And there's just so much conflict. So much yelling, so much misunderstanding. And, you know, and I hate to say this, but people are really mean. They are really mean, especially if you work in customer service. You feel like a human punching bag, like your whole shift. So, anyways, but that's what kindness in action looks like. And it is not up to me to turn that person's day around. But it is my responsibility to make sure I don't betray the integrity that I carry. To make sure I am not compromising my morals, my beliefs, or even my core values. All right? Because the best way that I've been able to really understand this for myself is that the more crazier someone acts in front of me, they're painting themselves in a bad light. So if I get down to their level, then I'm going to look just as bad as them. And that's what's worked for me so far. Does it sound a little superficial? Yeah, but also keep it simple, right? There's some things you just don't need to completely understand. But what I do know is kindness is always the best solution. And as I said before, kindness is miracles in action. So to kind of summarize that little point before we move on, you would be surprised. The next day, usually that person will come back, not to do any banking, but they would apologize to me. Sometimes they would bring me little gifts. Or they would just say, Theo, I am so sorry for losing it on you. I've just been handling a lot. So when those moments happened for me, that's when I knew that I was their little miracle in their day. And that is so fulfilling, because fulfillment isn't something that is outside of us. Fulfillment is what's already within us. So this is a reminder. If you are gentle and kind to the world around you, the world will be gentle and kind back to you. But you just don't make it transactional, okay? Don't be kind because you're expecting someone to be kind back. That's not how it works. It's not conditional. Kindness, just like love, is unconditional. And it's something that we have really forgotten. So know that your kindness is only as strong as your morals, beliefs, and core values. That is why you must not betray yourself, or you will fall prey to wickedness. As I said before, the easy way would to meet that person right where they're at and give it right back to them. Because how dare they show up this way? How dare they speak to me? The audacity of this horrible human being. Kind of comical when you hear it back, right? Doesn't make you sound like you're really the best person, does it? So just remember that if they are painting themselves in a bad light, don't allow them to paint you in a bad light. Show up with strength. Show up with kindness. Know that people will make fun of you. They'll mock you. They'll try to bait you into conflict. But that is why, when they go low, you take the high road. Just remember, you must remain kind and true to yourself. Michelle Obama talks about this. When they go low, you go high. And for her, it's kind of like the Let It Go song from Frozen. The more distance that you put between you and those kind of people, the better off you'll be. It's a boundary. And it's also recognizing that that's who they are, but this is who I am. And I can't control you, but I can control how I choose to show up. So when they go low, we go high. So how you can be kind to yourself is learn to forgive your mistakes. Understand what you have done and come to terms with it. The reason being is that acceptance is the key to understanding real and authentic kindness. And that will unleash the raw power and gentleness. And this is what will give you the courage to start fresh. This is what will give you the inspiration and motivation that you've been looking for to clean the slate of your past. And by making amends with yourself, you'll be open to making amends with others. And that's the action that you will need to get you back onto the path of light. So as I said before, I think a lot of people don't know this about me, but I have been, yeah, I've dealt with a lot of loss in my life. And for a lot of justifiable reasons, I have also been dealt with a lot of unfairness. And in my own confusion and not quite understanding my own grief and learning how to properly handle loss, I was not the nicest person. I remember as a kid, I was praised for being kind. I was praised for being gentle. But then somewhere along the way, in my teenage years, or adolescent years, in my 20s, I forgot who I was. Because I just felt like I couldn't escape the bullies. I couldn't escape the conflict, and I just felt like I was being dealt one bad hand after another. And a lot of people talked about this. It's like Theo always has something going on. Theo comes with a lot of baggage. Theo is a very complicated person and at times hard to be around. And if you know me from my past, you're probably one of the people who said that. And this is not me here to call you out. This is me to say you were right. I'm not going to deny it anymore. Because looking back and remembering who I used to be, I see it now. And again, I am so sorry. And I would be open to talking again. Okay? Because what I have learned, especially right now, was the one thing that I needed wasn't necessarily from anybody else, but it was for me to be kind to me. For me to meet myself with compassion in my grief. For me extending grace to myself in my shortcomings. I had to learn to stop being so hard on myself to be able to see what was really happening. Because the topics I've been talking about, courage, love, friendship, knowledge, sincerity, reliability, hope, light, these are all things we've heard before. But isn't it interesting that now hearing these things, how they sound a little bit different? It's kind of like rewatching one of your old favorite movies or reading one of the books that you love. And it's like you read it before, you watched it before, you heard it before, but it all sounds a bit different. That's because we learn from each other. And sometimes the things that we learn from each other is what we see in each other. It's important that we tell each other how much we appreciate each other, how grateful we are that you're in our life. But on the other side of this, when someone's hurting you, when someone's not being nice, you need to hold them accountable, but make sure you're communicating that with kindness, letting them know. Like again, with the customers, when they come back the next day and they apologize, I always say, thank you so much. I really needed to hear that. But I also let them know, yeah, in that moment, kind of ruined my day. But that's the kind of honesty we need. Because how are any of us going to change if we don't know that the words that we say and the things that we do are really hurting our feelings? That you did break me down. You did tear me down. But I'm hoping that together in this conversation, we can find a way to build each other up so that we can put this behind us. So now I want to introduce you to Ken and Wormmon and their story. Because as I said before, Their story is all about repentance and atoning for the mistakes that they made. Ken, much like me, when he first met Wormmon with his brother Sam, Wormmon told Ken, "You are so gentle and you are so kind, but please remember this. You need to be strong, or the dark forces and the evil in this world, you will fall prey to them." And he also reminded him that the Digivice that Ken received was his, not his brother Sam's. And that Ken is the 9th Digidestined, destined to attain the Crest of Kindness. Years passed, and as he watched certain events unfold on Earth, he saw the other Digidestined, and he felt abandoned by them. He felt forgotten. And that made him grow bitter, because shortly after that, during a big fight, when the digital world came across the earthly world and there was a war that broke out, he lost his brother Sam. And in his death, and in feeling forgotten by the other 8 Digidestined, he grew cold. Sorry. I'm sure everyone can relate to this, to feeling left out. That knowing that you're seeing other people get the opportunities that you know that were meant for you. You see other people receiving generosity that you know was meant for you. You see other people using you as a stepping stone, or they're stomping on your neck to get ahead. And that's how Ken felt. And so he made a promise to himself that he would never be like the other Digidestined. And he committed to himself he will be the best of the best. So he became an all-star soccer player. He became known as one of the most intelligent young people that Japan has ever seen. And shortly after, he became a celebrity, being known as a prodigy, a genius, someone that cannot be matched in sports and in school. And during that time, he went to the digital world and treated it like his playground. His Digivice turned dark, and he became known as the Dark Emperor, controlling Digimon for his own entertainment. And he made another commitment to take down the Digidestined. Skipping ahead, in his fight, in his war, he did not succeed. In fact, he lost. He lost hard. Because not only has he lost his brother Sam, he also lost his Digimon, Wormmon. And then the Digidestined, even though after all of the horrible things that he did, Kari brought some clarity to him and said that essentially, because I forgot to say this, Ken thought the digital world was just data. He didn't realize that they were actual living beings there, that this was a realm that contained other life. And Kari told him that. But also Kari told him that they were still there for him because he was still a Digidestined and that he should be with them. He needs community and he does belong. And that was the misunderstanding there. He went down the rabbit hole. He spiraled and forgot his kindness, killed his kindness, and ended up losing anyways. So he broke down And he isolated himself. But after some time, he came back to the digital world to find a way to get Wormmon back. And in his acceptance and in his forgiveness to himself, and remembering that kindness is strength, remembering what Wormmon told him, he was given back his Digimon. His Crest of Kindness activated, allowing him to get his friend back. Kind of interesting how these Digidestined keep losing their Digimon, right? Because, yeah. Anyways, but moving on. And once he realized that, he was able to work with the others. And he made a new commitment to start over, to start fresh, and to choose kindness, even if it doesn't feel deserved. So in his story, we hear about what second chances really look and sound like. They're not beautiful. They're not coming to you in a gift box wrapped with a perfect bow. They come out of a mess. They come from transformation. And this kind of salvation is the acceptance that we need, that we are in fact not beyond saving, that there is still hope, and that we can still get back onto the path of light. So remember, self-pity kills kindness. And as I said before, life will have its challenges, even inevitable battles. But you must remember who you are and what you believe in, because that's where you will be able to find the kindness that has always been there, already within you. So I did find another prayer, and I do want to read this one because it's kind of strange how it really aligns with this message. So, Heavenly Father, healing is a process, and I admit that sometimes I grow weary in the waiting. The road to recovery feels long and uncertain, and there are moments when my strength feels like it has run out. But I know that your power is made perfect in my weakness, and I trust you to carry me through it. I ask you to please help me to continue to trust you in the process. Even when I don't see progress, please teach me to be patient with myself and with the timing of your work in my life. Renew my strength each day and give me the perseverance to take one step at a time, trusting that you are working in ways that I cannot see. I ask you to surround me with your peace and help me to rest in the assurance that you are with me. Send people into my life who can encourage me, pray with me, and walk alongside me in this journey of salvation. Let every small victory remind me of your faithfulness, and please give me hope for the future. Thank you for being my constant support, my unshakable hope, and my refuge in times of difficulty. I trust in your love and your promises, and I look forward to the day when the healing is complete. But until that day comes, I will choose to be kind and remain true to you. In your name, amen. So before we completely end this, I want to remind you and leave you with this. Fulfillment, as I said before, is not outside of you. The fulfillment that you're seeking is already within you and what you have. And in the wise words of Agumon, if all you have are lemons, then make lemonade. So thank you so much for being here with me for today's coffee break. I want to leave you again with just one more thing. I keep getting ahead of myself. If you ever get stuck or feel blocked, I encourage you to choose kindness, because in choosing kindness, the path to move forward will be cleared, allowing you to move on to what's waiting for you up ahead. So if you are able, the best way to help me for free right now is to rate my podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember to be kind, take care of yourself, and until the next episode, know that you are always welcome here at our coffee table. See you next week.